Record. All right, everyone. Thanks very much for joining us today for Tech Talk with Saj and Luke. I'm jumping in there as the host as per usual today. So my name's Bill Fraser. I'm the head of channel at Access 4. On the call, we have Saj, our head of development, and Luke from our solutions sales team. Today, we're going to do a little bit of a bit more of a dive into, I guess, the application that is Webex. We went through a session yesterday and gave you the overview of what Webex is all about, why we're getting involved, and obviously the advantage of this solution moving forward. But today, like I said, we'll get involved a little bit deeper into the application, look what it does, which Luke will take us through, and he'll go through the application and give you some tips and tricks along the way. During that session as well, I have a number of questions that I will send Luke's way. And obviously during that session as well, please put your questions either in the chat or in the Q&A section of the webinar, and we can run through as many of those questions as we can. We've got about half an hour session today. We probably won't run much longer than that. And if there's any questions that we haven't picked up or can't go through, we'll be taking on offline and looking at those with an FAQ spreadsheet that comes out next few days. Probably one of the things we won't run through in too much detail today is SaaSBOSS. SaaSBOSS for Webex is actually very intuitive in the sense that to provision services using provision Webex services and add-ons, you essentially are using the same way as you've been doing with Broadworks. So those licenses work the same way. So we haven't really not going to do too much around SaaSBOSS. However, if you do have questions around SaaSBOSS, obviously we've got Saj on board to talk through that. So Luke, I might hand over to you, mate, and get you to run through the application overview. So I will make you presenter, and away you go.
All right. Hi, guys. So as Bill's just mentioned, I'll be going through and showing you the Webex application. And we'll start sharing. I trust everyone can see my screen. All right. Okay. So let's just move you out the way over there. All right, so the Webex application is much like most applications that you see around today, where it's logically laid out with your status bar on the top here, and you're going to have your action items down the left-hand side here. So we'll start from here, from the top left, and we click on the the initials here, and basically what we've got here is we've got a mirage of different settings that we can actually modify. So coming down to here, we're looking at our availability. So for example, if I'm going to be stepping out of the office, so I don't want to be disturbed for a set amount of time, we can use that, or we can do it so that way I can do it, say, I'm busy up to, say, 4:30 this afternoon. On top of this, screen share. Hang on, it's just been told that my screen share's not working. Okay, let's go for round 2. Okay, lots of fun to screen sharing, as we know. Okay, so just to repeat what I was going on about there. So on the top left-hand side here, click on the initials. We can come down here and we can modify the availability settings. As I just mentioned before, we can set by time or set by a set time as to when we're going to do that. And aside from this, we can also put on some white reasons that we're on where we are or what we're doing. Or you can put in a custom message there to set out what's going on. Coming to the next part here is the edit profile. So you can edit your profile picture and change the picture as required and backgrounds just to give a bit of a personalization to how you want to show yourself to your colleagues and also other Webex members in the community. Coming down a little bit more, if you want to maybe attach a profile to yourself, so maybe your LinkedIn or your Facebook, you're able to do this natively directly from here. So just to give your colleagues and also your people who you're connecting to a little bit more insight as to who you are. Now to the next part, we're looking at the settings. So from the settings here, as you can see, it's got the same sort of navigation structure. When you first install the application, it'll ask you if you want it to start automatically as you turn on the computer. I would imagine most people these days would prefer that, so that way it's nice and ready to go and start communicating with your colleagues and so forth. You need to modify your devices. You can do that directly here. I would recommend the best setting is just use the default system settings as you would to connect your device, so that way you don't have to play around with things so much. You can also have what's called music mode. So in events, maybe you've got a low connectivity and it's going in and out, rather than just providing dead silence to the person on the other end, it'll play back music until your session reconnects. Same thing with the video, you can modify the video as required. Now to notifications, this can be quite handy, much like other applications and your appointments for Outlook. You can get it to set reminders to you as to how you want it to remind you there is an upcoming meeting. So you could say, do it at the time, 5 minutes before, and other different sort of notifications. If you don't want every single notification thing going off, you can always select off and away you go. Coming down the bottom here, when people join meetings, you can also modify the settings as to how you are notified as people come in. So come into here, select different sounds, and basically just customize it to make it easy for you. As Bill mentioned yesterday, you've got the options of raise a hand. So maybe you've got a lot on the go and you're more focused on like what I'm doing, or I'm doing a screen share. You can have this sort of option to sort of notify you that someone has raised their hand, and you can go back to what they're asking for. You can also modify how the calls are handled to you during the meetings, where you can actually stop them or do as you need. Appearance, you can change the appearance as to how the application works to suit your environment by just clicking one of them. Just take note when you do select a different theme, it will restart the whole application. Outlook integration, as you'd expect, it can pull through your contacts and then you'll be able to click the dial. It's quite easy little service. Turn it on if you want it, turn it off if you don't need it. So the single sign-on. So yes, as soon as you sign the application, you're already signed in. So no other applications are required to modify this or any other settings. Messaging, if you need a little bit of spell check on there, I know I do. I'm not the world's greatest typer, but it is there to enable. For the meeting rooms, there are some settings that you can modify for yourself in this respect. If you click on the configure settings, it'll open up a page where you can start personalizing how your room is accessible, where people can come into it, dial in numbers and all the rest of it. You can select, say, like local dial-in numbers or multiple up to country dial-in numbers, which you don't need to source for. You can also set up your PIN number if you want to have a set PIN, or you can leave it blank and then it gives it a personalized one for each invite that you send out to people. For the join options, most likely you probably want to use your last join options when you join a meeting, so that way you don't have to keep redoing it every single time. Now, you've also got the option where when you're joining a meeting, you can get it where the system calls back to you and you can listen in directly on the conference if you're in a low data coverage area. Now, around calling, there are some new features here that I think are quite smart. Is you can easily come in and change things, sending the call to voicemail or do not for calls, or if you want to have a multitude of different phone numbers in here to change. So maybe if you've got someone who's maybe a receptionist or something like that, where they need to redirect calls at different times to different people on different rosters, what you can do here is you put in your phone number or multiple different numbers. And when you click on save and you come down to this call settings later on, you can then select a number that you wish to forward to directly. So this can be handy for people who are front of office and need to do ad hoc changes to for roster settings. Much the same here, the single reach number. So maybe you've got a mobile phone and it's not always great coverage. You can also add your mobile number in here, so that way when a call comes into your service, rather than just going directly to your desktop, it can also go out to your mobile or some other number as well. The self-care portal allows you to modify how your calls are redirected on do not disturb functions and call waiting, outgoing calls, where you can come in and turn off your caller ID, voicemail, the same we've got the same settings here as you would expect from when setting up your SAS bus, which are in sync, where you can say, I wanted to go to voicemail, email, or carbon copy to another locations. And also we've got the call control for contact centers as well. So as we expand here, we can see I'm currently available. I can come to here and sign out. Or if we've got multiple different unavailable settings, you can select them as well. If you've got people associated to multiple different queues, they can come into here and selectively join and unjoin different queues as they see fit. If you want to bypass that and go directly to the same settings for contact center, you can click on here and it'll open up that one directly. Now the last one for devices here. Basically what we've got here down the bottom here is the list of devices that are associated to me. So as you'd expect, I'm also associated with MS Teams as well. So I can get it so that when the call comes in, I can make it ring directly just on Teams or myself. The other parts here, if you've got a Webex enabled device for ultrasound, you can actually connect to those room-based devices by actually basically going in near field sync to them. All right. Come back to here. So that's pretty much the most parts that you'll see from the drop-down box here. If someone's wanting to know where to actually get the mobile application, they can click on here, scan the QR code, and that'll take them to their relevant app market to the app that they can actually use. Coming across the top here, we've got some quick navigation options where we can click on the plus item here. If I wanted to send a direct message to someone, I could select this, come into here and send a message directly to Bill and send a message to him directly instead of going through the navigation of the left-hand side. Same thing, if I want to create a space or make a call, we've got all the options here directly. Okay, so coming back to here, we've got our first icon lit up here for the messaging and my most recent contact sort of messaging. So you can see here, we've got a whole host of different people here. If we want to know the people I'm directly working with or direct messages, I can click on this one here and I go to the next one here. We've got our spaces. So spaces are pretty much like if you've used Teams before, it is a space where a group of people can collaborate together to work on a specific project. So for example, with me and Mitchell, my other pre-sales consultant here at Access 4, we can come into here and we can collaborate, share content with each other, maybe schedule a meeting together, or even come into here and share applications or websites together. So this makes it nice and easy to quickly collaborate together to get something done. All right. Now, when making a phone call, you can do it a couple of different ways. We can go to one of these people here, and we can go to the calling icon here, click on here, and I can do a direct call to you. Or if I want to do the call just on Webex, so where it stays within the Webex network, I can click on this and then we can make that call. When you're on a Webex call from point to point, you're able to do a quick share screen with each other, do some content sharing with whiteboards and other material on the go. However, if you make a call directly via the phone number, your options will be a little bit more limited, much the same as like if you were calling out to the regular world. All right, moving down to our next icon here, and we've got our teams. So the way the teams operate with Webex is you can have like a main channel group, such as like pre-sales. And then from here, you can have subgroups for spaces that you're working on. So for myself and Mitchell, we've got our general, our demo space, and we've got some parts for going to greater testing. So we've got some places where we can go in, separate what we're working on into different places as required. If you want to add members in, simply click on the team, add a team person, and add them into the space as needed. Going down to our next part is our contacts. So this is another way of organising your contacts together. You can group them together by different sorts of people by clicking on the create option here. And we can say maybe sales, for example. That will then populate into here. And then if I wanted to move people around or have them in different groups, I could go to, say, right click on Lou, and I could copy Lou into the sales group here. Now Lou is a part of my sales group contacts. So it's just another way where you can organize and organize your contacts together to make it a little bit more simpler to achieve what you're after. Again, when you click on that particular person, you can see the information regarding them, call them, and email as needed. Now, if you prefer a long way, you can click on the calling icon and manually dial in a phone number as required. And of course, if you click on this one here, it's going to send out a call to the outside world. If you have an additional device connected, like myself, where I've got a Teams device and other things, you can select which device you want to use. So maybe you've got a physical handset you want to work in conjunction with. You can select that and make that the actual call, the audio path you want to use. Next icon here, this is your voicemail here. So if you're using voicemail where you store it with us instead of voicemail to email, you'll have a visual indicator of the voicemail here where you can download, share, and do as required. Coming onto our calendar, we've got a couple of different ways of going about this. Now, because I'm in a meeting, of course, I won't be able to click on this. But you can see here, it is pulled through all my different upcoming meetings, where I can come in and join them directly if they are, of course, Webex-based meetings. If I need to do an ad hoc join, I can click on this and select the meeting rooms that maybe I've been associated with before. Like I need to join Bill's meeting. I could click on this, select Bill, and join Bill's meeting without him actually sending out an invite to me. From here, if we click on schedule meeting, this will create a pre-made calendar event via your Outlook, and then you can put in the details of the people who you wish to join your conference. And this will give them the dial in, the link, and everything required to join in. To our next part, as you'd expect with most things these days, Webex also has our own app market, which we can click on here, and then there's an array of different integrations that will come through. So as you'd expect, find the one you want to use, select on the one you want, and then you can add that as a app into the Webex application here. There's quite a few interesting services in there to actually play with as well. All right. So coming down to the bottom here, and then we'll come in for some Q&A. So as you saw before, if you want to, instead of going to the top menu here and going to your calling preferences, you've got a shortcut here where you can do that. If you wanted to redirect your calls ad hoc, you can do it directly here. If I want to pick up someone's call, I can click on this icon here and put in the extension. So if a call was coming in through to Lou, for example, I could put in Lou's call, or if I'm a part of a pickup group or so like the pre-sales, I can click on pickup and I'd be able to pick up Mitchell's call. The other option we've got here for call retrieve, where calls may be parked in a certain location on a physical phone somewhere. All right, Bill, I might hand it back to you for the moment, mate.
Oh, okay, no worries. So as you can see, guys, there's a lot of flexibility within this application, and I did speak about it yesterday around customization. So it's it's a great application for your customers and yourselves actually to customize colors and settings, and I guess the way your teams work. So there's a lot of flexibility within the platform. We've got a few questions I'll run through before I jump across to the Q&A. Probably one of the first ones, Luke, is how do I add an external participant to a space?
Okay, so what we can do here, we'll need to go to our demo space here. We can go to people, and we can go to add people here, and then you just add in the email address, and then it'll send them a link, and then they can join into this space here. So type in an email address, select it, and then click on add, and then that'll send them an email in the background to say join this space.
So that helps from a collaboration perspective. So obviously then adding those extra people in. For example, in our world, it's handy for having spaces for our partners, each of our partners, so that we can work on those together.
Absolutely. And this means, the external people don't need to have a license at all. Even if they don't have one, it'll send it to them and it'll automatically give them a free account to join into your space.
Right. So how do you then add a space to your favorites list?
Okay, good question. We can right click on a space and add to favorites, and that'll come up into here. Back up here, sorry.
Nice and easy.
Yep.
And then adding integrations into space. I think you mentioned the URL, but what other integrations can you add?
From the integration point, you've got two ways of going about it. You can go to your app market, and when you click on the icon and add to space, you can add it to yourself, or you can add it to a space where you can actually share that particular application. And then that'll appear as a application to this particular, it'll be an application sitting on the top here.
Great, thanks, Luke. I think that covers a couple of the questions we had from yesterday. So I'm going to go to the Q&A and chat board. There's probably one question I can answer off straight away. Does white labeling work for Webex too? So white labeling, essentially, I guess, for partners who don't understand what that is, that's essentially rebranding a solution. We do have that available for some of our platinum partners in the Broadwork stack. Webex is a little different, similar to Microsoft and other platforms. They're very protective about their brand and what you can actually white label. So at the moment, we're working through some scenarios where in the bottom left-hand corner, you can see obviously the Access 4 logo there. Essentially, that's about the only thing that can be rebranded. The applications that you see on mobiles are still Webex, but we're still working through that with Webex and Cisco and on how that applications and the white labeling works. But essentially, it's fairly limited from a white labeling perspective. This may be a Saj question, but we're asking moving contacts from Communicator over to Webex when moving people across. Is there a capability to do that? And if so, how is that done?
So you're talking about existing contacts that you may have had in
Communicator moving to Webex.
It is at this point, it is going to be a manual job to import it from one to the other. But there is an app directly within the Webex where you can actually import in bulk as a CSV format if need be. In terms of getting the existing contacts out, I believe that is sitting on a separate database. I believe that would be a Saj question on that end. Maybe we'll continue along just for a second. Maybe we'll put that into the review questions later on, Bill.
Yep, absolutely. There was also a question about the different licenses and user levels. I'm not sure, Luke, did you want to run through those?
Yes, sure. So there is going to be 4 different types of licenses. You've got your softphone add-on, which is much like the softphone add-on that was done with your existing executive users. And then we're going to have 3 levels above that for basic, standard, and premium versions. Each of them, of course, having slightly more capabilities than the previous one. And Bill, I believe you got a slide for that to show the differences between it from yesterday. However, this material is available in the PRC, which illustrates the differences between each of the 4 levels, and also with the PRC training guide as well.
Yeah, just on that point regarding the PRC, if you are looking for information, simply go to the PRC and resources. Under marketing, you'll see all the information regarding Webex and all the details around license types, and also plenty of information about how you can promote this to your customers as well. Another question just relating to call queue settings. It says, can we get a shortcut of the call queue settings? I'm not quite sure. I wondered, Luke, just quickly run through the call queue settings again that are available.
Yes, sure. So I'm assuming we want to be able to get to change quickly. We can go to the calling preferences. And because mine's got a bit more, click on call queue. and it'll open up that particular spot directly here.
Great. There's a question about force card for BroadSoft when that is turned off. So I guess just for clarification, BroadWorks or BroadWorks Stack is actually getting turned off. That is essentially the call control component for Webex, whereas the collaboration side of things for Webex reaches out to the Cisco cloud. So BroadWorks will still continue. We still will have obviously Office and exec licenses. The main difference would be that the exec licenses will come with a Webex soft phone as opposed to a BroadWorks soft phone. So that's one of the changes, that connect to communicator aspect. And the collaboration user will be removed over time, and that is replaced with the Webex standard license. Sorry, the Collaborate with Cisco Webex standard license. So that is a direct replacement. So there's no forcing or cut off of the BroadWorks stack. That still is there. There are some timeframes related to when the collaboration users will be made end of sale and end of life over the course of the next year, and there's plenty of information in the PRC around that, and obviously your PSM will give you that information. So I'm going to give you plenty of time to upgrade your customers, particularly on the exec license, the soft phone, and the collaboration user across to the new Collaborate with Cisco Webex standard user. So plenty of time for that. The exec user soft phone replaced by Webex, you can actually productize the soft phone today, or as of yesterday, you could have productized it, and you can start utilizing that, the new Webex soft phone, as opposed to the traditional soft phone. Luke, was there anything else you had on that particular point?
No, it's pretty much straight through in terms of doing the upgrade there.
There doesn't seem to be any further questions coming through. I'll just double check any other lists we have and just see if there's anything else we want to run through. There's nothing in the Q&A. So we've kind of covered most of the questions. Oh, sorry. There is another question. Okay, so it's an offline question, so that's fine. There is actually a question has been raised, call parking. So we know there are some differences between, I guess, the soft phones and the collaboration users we've got currently versus Webex. So call parking is one of those. Luke, did you want to talk through call parking and what that is in the Webex world?
Okay, so the call parking, as you probably used in the past, where you can when you can park the call in a certain position, is not presently available in Webex. It is one of the road mappable items, which is also in the PRC, which I did get to mention. There is a issues register, and one of them is around the parking. However, you can if you do park a call on the physical phone still, as per normal, and if you are part of that park group, you can retrieve those park calls.
Cool, and I think that's an important point. There are a few features that potentially haven't transferred across to the Webex, Cisco Webex Collaborate solution. So where most of those, we've got a register that we were running, and also looking at what actually gets applied to roadmaps as well. So we'll make sure we continue to communicate with the partner base on those updates as they come through. But yeah, send through those requests, and similar to the way you can request from Salesforce, we will go back to Cisco to ensure that we've got the right solutions as we go moving forward. Look, guys, there hasn't been any other questions there, unless Saj or Luke, you've got anything else you want to cover off. Oh, sorry, just as I say that, something's come through. That's okay. No pending questions in Q&A. Sorry, Sam, I'll take that up to you direct, that's fine. All right, guys, thanks very much for today's session. I think we've covered a bit of ground over the half an hour. As per usual, please reach out to your PSMs or Luke or Saj or myself directly if you have any questions and queries. Obviously, the first step is to productize this within your Salesforce instance. So if you haven't done that, work with your the Partner Success Manager to complete that process. And then moving forward, obviously, there's the opportunity to go and sell. And again, don't forget about the campaign offer that we have running until the end of June, with 15% off your price book tier price, as long as you deal reg and select that in the campaign code section. So thanks very much for your time. We will see you again, hopefully tonight. We'll see many of you down at the face-to-face session, and tomorrow, if you haven't already registered, make sure you register for the virtual event. We've got a bit of a Kahoot question session there, and there's an opportunity to win a 65-inch TV, screen TV. So handy little one there. So make sure you register, and we'll speak to you, if not tonight, we'll speak to you online tomorrow around about 4 o'clock. Thanks very much.
Thanks for your time, guys.
Thank you.